My name is Sydney, and I'm here with Bif Naked, and we're here at the 28th Annual Wellness Show in Vancouver, BC. Thanks for joining us, Bif.
Thank you for coming and seeing me.
How are you doing?
I'm awesome. I can't, but even if I wasn't, that would be my default answer.
But really, how are you doing? You're awesome?
Yeah, you know what? It's a beautiful day. It's a great weekend. I love this type of trade show. It's all people who are happy. They want to be here. They want to be healthy. They want to impart their wisdom and their ideas. There's a lot of mutuality that happens. So it's a good energy, and it's fun to be here.
Awesome. So what brings you to the wellness show?
While I'm speaking, there's a magazine called Fresh Mag, and they've put on a panel that includes me and the activist Jody Emery, and also Mary Zilba, who's a podcaster and an actress as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then you're also here with your new company as well.
Yes, I am, with Mona Lisa Healing, and basically what our mission is to basically share what we've learned about CBD oil and the benefits that it potentially has in everybody in our lives.
Amazing. How did you come to discover CBD oil, and why is that something that you felt like you wanted to jump into business-wise?
Well, it was kind of an accident, just like singing for me. I never went into university to be a vocalist. And same with CBD. When I was in cancer treatment, a lot of the other women that I was basically on my chemo team, who were in the wards with me, were utilizing cannabis to help either mitigate their side effects or alleviate symptoms in some way. And there were a few of them that were taking CBD oils and tinctures. It was against the law back then, by the way. So, it was something that I was aware of, but, me having leaned into kind of being straight edge since the 90s, it wasn't anything that interested me. I didn't really explore it for any length of time or reason, so I didn't know a lot about it. And about a year ago, my goddaughter was diagnosed with Lyme disease several years ago. She's 15 now, but since she was 10, it's been really difficult for them to navigate the healthcare system and even holistic health system and her own symptoms and how that condition morphs. And they started CBD as one of the different treatment options for her, and it completely changed their lives. And so her dad started taking it, and he discovered his sciatica was alleviated. Their auntie, who's 83, with schizophrenia, she started taking it, and again was able to kind of work through her anxiety, her sleeplessness, and it just, all these stories started to compound. And then when they asked me to be involved, I couldn't help but be impressed by it. I started giving it to my husband. I started taking it. This is a non-THC, hemp-based isolate. So there was not that fear of getting intoxicated or anything like that, although a lot of people do really want to have THC in their CBD. Ours does not have that. And it's just, it just seemed to really help everybody around me. And that's really basically the only reason I got involved. Mm-hmm.
As a poet and an author, your memoir is coming out soon?
My memoir is out in 2016.
Oh,
and
I'm sorry.
We're selling it downstairs, but my book of poetry is coming out.
Your book of poetry is coming out.
So that book is called Razor Blade Chewing Gum.
Amazing. And
some of it is a bit personal. Some of it's kind of vulnerable. There's a lot of trauma-based response poetry in there. There's stuff that, if you would want to read it aloud by yourself in the mirror, it would be like my version of slam poetry, including illustrations. And they're just lousy little stick people illustrations. It's nothing fancy. But I'm writing a cancer book right now and working with a couple different hospitals in Toronto. Just as, not a guide, but my version of a guide to trying to keep the PMA and stay really positive during treatments and tough diagnoses and stuff.
So I can imagine, from what I know of the music industry, it's not really an industry that promotes wellness.
Right.
How have you come around to finding wellness with working in such a tough industry?
Well, I think for me, because it's been so long, so 1990 really was the first tour I was on, and I was still a self-respecting prairie girl back then, drinking beer, smoking cigarettes like prairie girls are wont to do, and I kind of turned into a straight edge around the mid-90s because I just didn't want to be not with my own wits. For me, it was really a socio-political expression in a way. I started really being able to relate to some of the American punk bands that I knew. Particularly, there's a lot of Hare Krishna bands I was just so into when I was a young person. I was really impressionable, and everything that they were doing and stood for really resonated with me. And I was already a vegetarian. I've been a vegan since 1994. And so my version of wellness was really just how I was living anyway. And I was always the only vegan on my tours. I was the only non-drinker. And that didn't really bother me. I didn't really mind what anyone else was doing because I just felt like, I can only control my own efforts in my body. But that's something that I've always kind of just been about and promoted. I don't know another way to do things. So I think that in many ways I don't know how to party. I don't even know anymore.
Yeah. I know because mental health is such like a huge, talking point now, and just mental or just wellness in general.
Yes.
Like, do you have any ideas of what you think like people within the industry can do to kind of foster like a more healthy environment?
For me, because it is always a busy environment, there's not a lot of time when you have to yourself. I always find headphones are great. Even if you're not playing music that speaks to you. Like for me, I think that I listened to a lot of, Krishna Das and Jai Uttal when I was by myself. Get off the stage, sweaty punk show, and then, basically have time to myself, just having my headphones on. And being able to just either do meditation, whatever that looks like for people. It doesn't mean you have to sit in a lotus position and sit in a closet or anything like that. You can just take a beat to yourself. And I found that just those little breaks all day long, checking in with how I feel, always kind of helped me. And the same with when you are met with people who are giving you all their kind of strong energy, for example. I always found it easier just to try and convince myself that I'm just observing that. And so it's mind trickery, if you will. You just have to kind of convince yourself that you're just observing that experience and going, that doesn't make me feel good, but I'm just going to observe it. And, you can kind of get through anything in a day if you just, keep your own wits about you, if you will.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Without sounding really cheesy, you have new music coming out, you have a new company, you have a book of poetry coming out. How do you manage it all?
Oh,
what's your secret?
What I really want to do is cook curry every day for my little husband at home who's starving with me being away. No, just kidding. I don't know. I think that everybody who is self-employed, for example, or everybody who's working as an artist in this country, unless you're hustling and not just applying for grants, but getting approved for them, you're basically living hand to mouth. And so, and it's a misconception, and I always blame television, because everybody thinks that, artists are millionaires like Puff Daddy or whatever.
It's the exception.
Yeah, that's my generation reference, by the way. But I think that because we all live hand to mouth, we have to kind of be a bit flexible about the variety of things we can do. And plus, I just really like all those things. Doing a book of poetry is something I'd always wanted to do. I finished it a year ago, and it coming out, this summer is like a dream because it takes forever. Once you can complete something and basically hand it in to the grown-ups, and then they want you to edit it. And same with the new music. We've been working on it for a year. I had done 3 records that I shelved in the last 10 years. One was a dance record, a disco record. I did a side project called Snake in the Chain, and we toured that with a lot of those songs. And to be able to put out new music that I've done with Snake and Doug Fury is a really big deal. Our single comes out on Valentine's Day.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's called Jim. The name.
The name.
Not the place.
Amazing. Well, I can't wait for that.
Cool.
In regards to today, tomorrow at the Wellness Expo, you're going to be on these panels. For anyone who's not able to make it out, what kind of conversations can they expect? I know that one of them is about managing health outcomes.
Yes.
Like, what are you hoping to share with the attendees?
Really, all I can ever say and all I ever do say to people is I'm not a scientist or a doctor. I'm not an expert at anything. All I know is what has worked for me. And so that's basically all I can share with other people, because everyone's lifestyle is different, everyone's family dynamic is different, their trauma history is different, and how they're going to receive information or suggestions are all going to be either triggering or non-triggering. And I always just say, take everything that you hear with a grain of salt. And the stuff, this is, all I can do is speak my truth and tell you what I've learned. And hopefully we can all laugh about it, because I think that, that's the key, is to keep it funny.
Also, just before we go, why the name Mona Lisa? Where did Mona Lisa come from?
You know what? That was already in place when they asked me to get involved. I think that, honestly, the Mona Lisa really is such a perfect name, because it's familiar, it's iconic, and, we just all can think of her face and that kind of image of contentment. And really, that's very fitting for the product.
Is there anything else that you want anybody to know about what's to come?
No, just look for us on tour in this area in the summer. Can't wait to come back to Vancouver.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Bif.
Thank you.